the rest of us that we can't even keep ourselves entertained talking about it. We are very dependent on our experience.
What you told me a bit loudly, we can hear.
It's an interesting topic because we know so little about it.
Exactly.
No, it's family published in Sri Lanka.
We can talk about the fish.
And there's a Fairmont published in Sri Lanka. Bible. I think we conduct a more
This is a joint presentation prepared by myself and Mr. Ahmad Zamir. To continue with, I will show you a chart of the Maldives. In this map, the two places marked in red are the two atolls where the excavation took place. One is Paf Atoll. In Paf Atoll, Nilando Island was excavated in the southern, in south. Gafdal Atoll, Gain Island was excavated. Before moving on with the details of these excavations, I will have a quick look at the Buddhism in the Maldives, a very brief one. Buddhism in the Maldives was the predominant religion at least until the 20th century Common Era. It is not clear how Buddhism was introduced into the islands, although there are a number of competing theories. According to some researchers, the ancient Maldivians followed Triveda Buddhism, but many local Buddhist archaeological remains in the National Museum of Maldives display Mahayana and Vajrayana iconography. In this slide, I have included a picture of the five-faced coral stela, which was found in the capital Malé during the 1960s when reconstructing the roads. This is carved on a large block of coral stone depicting the face of a man with mustaches, a curved protruding tooth at the corners of the mouth, and elongated earlobes with circular ornaments inserted in them. A Vajrayana Buddhist mantra is inscribed in Aveda script. Aveda script is, by the way, the earliest script of the Maldives, the first one which was used in the Maldives. Altogether, there are three, including the present one that we are using today. Aveda script on either side of the head above the earth. This stela is dated approximately to the 9th century CE. Moving on, Maldives archaeology. The first archaeological research on the Maldive Islands was carried by XCP Bell in 1920 and 1922. That was the first ever archaeological research done. And later during 1950s, a Buddhist ruin in the island of Toddu were excavated and was later followed by another expedition led by Mr. Thohaidal in 1983 and 84, which I will be discussing with more details in this presentation. In 1996 and up to 1998, the only scientific excavation ever done was of the Buddhist monastery in Kashidu Island. In these pictures, you see the ruin excavated in Toddu Island, that was in 1958, and on the right side, you see only part of the seated Buddha, which was found inside the Dagaba stupa. And this is a chart showing the scientifically excavated Buddhist monastery site in Kashidu Island in North Malé Atoll. This is a 16-sided stupa from the monastery at Kashidu Island. There are many other stupas you can see from the behind of the picture. Other than the archaeological evidence which tend to support the existence of Buddhist theory in the Maldives, are the Buddhist expressive titles such as Dharmamanta, meaning religious or just, which had been applied to the first Muslim king in the Maldives. Likewise, Lankampushi meaning Lanka city, Vihamanapushi meaning delightsome city of the Buddhist monastery, Munnapushi meaning Buddha city, and Uludeli meaning boat tree island. I think there are a few boat trees left in the Maldives in some of the islands still. Excavations on Nilandu pathway. Archaeological work in Nilandu was concentrated on the Havitta mound, which proved to be part of an old temple area including the present mosque as well as some other structures. The main purpose of the investigation was to detect the type of structures which was hidden by the Havitta, as well as to obtain material for carbon dating from the Havitta and the temple area in general. This is a chart showing the whole area including the mosque, the present day mosque, which is still there, and the Havitta structure and the other two structures which have been excavated and investigated during 1983 and 1994. There is a gate at the eastern side of the mosque which is said to be more than 1,000 years old, which had been used as an entrance to the monastery during that time. And in this chart, it shows the different, the three structures which have been excavated during that during Tohajar's investigation. Structure 1, 2, and 3. During the investigations of the mound, a cylindrical shaped disc with perforations at center, a profiled masonry stone with dentillated decorations, triglyph and mentor, was found. This classical decorative element is well known in Buddhist architecture, for instance from Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka. Moving on to excavations in Glen Island, here also the archaeological was concentrated on the Havitta mound. The height of the mound is 8.85 meters and had a maximum dimension of 32.80 meters during that time. This picture taken in 1984 shows the Havitta in Glen Island before investigation was started. This is only after all the vegetations around the Havitta has been cleared out, they have taken this picture. And this is a plane and profile chart of the Havitta in Glen Island. Throughout the investigation of the Glen Havitta, different items relating to Buddhist architecture were discovered. For instance, railing stone which originally may have formed part of the symbolic fence, which are among the typical traits of Buddhist religious architecture were found. Very similar ornamentation was found on railings from Buddhist cave sanctuary at Udaigiriya, Orissa in India. Related ornamentation is also known from the pillars and the railings at the early stupas at Sanchi, Madhya Pradesh, India. Finds of miniature votive stupas, a fragment of a possible Buddha statue and other decorative elements well known from Buddhist religious architecture indicated that the structures at one time served as a Buddhist monastery. And in the next slide, a picture of a votive stupa made of sandstone found in Glen Island during the investigations of 1983 and 84. In conclusion, during the short test excavations of these islands, it has yielded many important new information about the Buddhist period in the Maldives. The carbon analysis done during that time was the very first dependable dating ever obtained. Even though the investigations have not given any answers to as when Buddhism was introduced in the Maldives, in the islands, certain finds from the stupa at Glen Island indicate that the sanctuary may date back to the 1st century AD. other than the sites I have mentioned in the presentation, there are many other sites which represent Buddhist era in the Maldives. For further investigations, these sites need to be excavated scientifically, but unfortunately, due to lack of finance and expertise, we are unable to carry out these investigations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will open the session to questions. Would anybody like to ask something? Yes, please.
I don't have anything to ask, but I have information. There are several of Maldives Island Buddhist artifacts in the Colombo National Museum. Which were brought down here by S.C.P. Bell after excavation in Maldives Island, including a casket, a seated Buddha image, forehead part of a large Buddha image, and some other stone pieces. These are all illustrated in Bell's report, Ilmi report in 1930s. If you go to the museum, Colombo Museum, even now, you will be able to see them. But there is one, Mr. P is here from the museum, and there are other ladies. Maybe they know these pieces. Unfortunately, they are not labeled Maldives Island, because our museum is all for Sri Lankan artifacts. So even though those Maldives pieces are there because of their importance, but they have not been labeled. So if you go with a person who knows the subject, they will help you, and you can take some photographs and go back.
Maybe we will really go to the museum on the 25th. Maybe we can have a look at all those artifacts and everything.
Can you help please? Do you know those pieces?
Perhaps which part of the museum they kept in?
Yeah.
We would really like
You have your colleagues here. You can get their help. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
In fact, I think if you would just hand in the microphone, he can tell everybody where they are kept in the museum.
Please tell where it's kept in.
If you hand the microphone to
Which part of the museum can be looked for there?
In a stone gallery.
Stone gallery is called. Right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If we could have the microphone back here, please.
And not only that, there were a lot of textile pieces, which have been collected by Bell those days, but they are perishing. I don't know whether they you can't see them.
Okay, we would like to see anything related to the Maldives if there are any from any collection. Thank you.
The Bell
I can
report,
go, but
I think it's on sale
being here,
Maldives, and the Islamic Society here also has some articles in our journal. Two comments I had to make of observation. You mentioned that Vajrayana type of thing. That's you said 8th century, 9th century. Now around that period was the visit of Amoghavajra to Abhayagiri in Sri Lanka from the Tang dynasty, and he took 500 tantric texts, and also you have Kedigi in Sri Lanka, which I have as an area that you may explore possibly. But I'm curious about Thaw Hayadar. I think you have read his book. I'm sure you have read his, seen his 3 films which are shown in Norway.
Not yet. We haven't
No,
seen
I have seen them.
Okay.
I used to speak a bit Norwegian, but I don't now. I mean, you can I'm sure it can cover about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Now he describes all these Buddha statues as long ears. I think you remember the book, long ears, and connects it with the East Asian statues of long ears. I mean, totally forgetting the Buddhist connection. A person like Tao Haidar is an adventurer, and I think a very destructive adventurer. A person like that should be treated with tremendous amount of salt and maybe thrown into the sea, It's really destructive.
Yes, I'm sure that could be done.
He reported in his book, The Natives of Maldives, that the mounds in these atolls represented similar styles as that of the Dagavas in Anuradhapura here in Sri Lanka. He also stated that some of the sites were huge religious complexes of Buddhist period. Moving on. So that's the only proper research that was done in the 19th century. Moving forward to the 20th century, we see Mr. H.C.K. Bell. He actually visited Maldives and observed the sites in 1879, but he completed his work and compiled his book during the 20th century in 1920 and 1922. Actually, during the 20th century is where we receive a milestone on research in Buddhism in Maldives. Mr. Bell research is a wonderful work. Researchers who visited Maldives after Bell often used Bell's work as a baseline and often referenced his work. He visited 3 times, as mentioned in the presentation. He studied sites in 4 atolls in the south. He documented the existence of stupas, pillars, mounds, carved stones, images, etc., and proved that Buddhism was in fact very deeply rooted in Maldives. He also confirmed that by 4th century, the ancient monuments followed Theravada Buddhism. However, this has been challenged. Most local Buddhist remains now in the National Museum display Mahayana and Vajrayana iconography, as it was mentioned before the presentation. He has published 2 volumes under the name The Maldive Islands, where in one book he talks about the epigraphy, history and archaeology of Maldives. Next, we see local research starting. In 1946, the government of Maldives sent a team led by historian Mr. Adam Nasir to Fonok Atoll, that is the last second atoll to the south, to excavate a mound. They documented the mound to be about 23 feet in height, and it was a round structure with coral blocks piled on top of each other. Now, Bell also visited this site, and in his report he says that when he visited the site, it had 60 foot in height. I visited the site this year, and it was about 15 foot now, so we can see an obvious destruction to the site. Upon excavation, they unearthed a skeleton and 3 coral stone boxes. But this information I found from the journal of the excavator. However, this isn't recorded in any official historical documents or anything. So we are not aware of the existence of these remains. Not too far away from this site, just 1 block further, locals encountered another grave of a female inside a local house. Beside her head was a huge coral stone box with a lid, and inside thousands of coral shells and 2 animal statues with a trumpet-like shell on top, which locals say are incense burners, but we aren't sure. We need further investigation about these ruins. Locals also found the head of a statue, a huge head, while constructing the football field just next to the mound. So those are the first one shows the remaining blocks of the mound, and there's the coral stone box with shells. And that's the statue that we found. We haven't been able to do any research on these remains, and there's the skeletal remains. Now, the discovery of these artifacts does indicate that this is a huge site, and Mr. Nasir confirmed that this is a Buddhist site, and the excavated mound was just one of several mounds that existed there. There are 6 other similar mounds around the site, and if you walk around the area, you can see traces of ancient structures on the surface, and also you can see potsherds and tower shells on the surface. You can just pick it up. This is a huge area which requires urgent observation and protection. The mound, as you can see, has faced several damage by locals due to removal of blocks for housing purposes. When Beryl and Mr. Nasir visited this site, they were able to draw the shape of the site, but however, when I visited the site this year, it was just unable to identify the structure, the shape of the site. We see again a local research, this time an excavation in 1958, where the Historical Committee of Maldives excavated the mound in Alipoli, Thodu. Now, they first discovered the foundations of a huge mound, then smaller constructions, and a wide stepped staircase, a rectangular stone slab, and then a huge Buddha statue underneath, which was shown in the previous presentation. They also found a round coral stone casket, a metal container inside, and 3 rings, and 2 ancient Roman coins laying around the container. Inside the metal container was a golden container with a gold cylinder inside. However, the existence of these artifacts are in question. No further records of these artifacts we have in our records. Now this is the Buddha statue they found in Thodu. Now, photographs of the site and the Buddha statue was sent to Dr. Paranavithana in Ceylon. He said that it was an ancient stupa of no greater size but of many unusual characters. The Buddha statue, the one on the picture, had robes of a monk similar to Gautama Buddha statues in Sri Lanka. This was said by the Historical Committee. And they also recorded that this statue was carefully buried and preserved underground for nearly 800 years. However, the sad part is that this statue was destroyed by the locals in fear of Buddhism spreading to the island. Only its head survived and was brought to Male. The head again faced further damage, and just recently this one was again faced for further damage, and it's now kept in the storage for further reconstruction. Next, this has been explained by Mr. Nasr in his presentation, but I'll give you a briefing. 1983 to 1984, Mr. Haidar. He actually visited a lot of islands, visited a lot of sites all over the country, and did his excavations in Fak, Nilandu and Gafgan. He also visited the highest mound in, that existed at that time in Maldives, that was in Lamu. Now, upon his excavations and observations, Gafgan Fort, he excavated Nilandu and Gafgan for traces of Buddhism. Some of the remarkable findings from this expedition include stone and bronze Buddha statues, huge Buddha heads, stone slab with Buddha footprints, and large number of statues. He excavated a lot of materials from all over the country, and he sent a lot of them to the capital, Male. They also mentioned the poor status of all these sites and urged for careful protection and more testing and research. He observed the footprint and stated that it showed direct cultural contact with Sri Lanka. Further observations at Nilandu proved that carbon dates for the temple area of this site indicates the first habitation at this temple area taking place in the 6th century. He also said that although aspects of Hinduism is evident, it was not much influence in Maldives. He urged for future research, especially to establish a chronological sequence for the pre-Islamic settlement and when the very first habitation took place. He stated that the natural conditions of Maldives were well suited for archaeological investigations. His excavations and details were published in the book The Maldive Mystery. So the first picture is the Fak Nilandu mound before excavation, and you can see some blocks over there at the right side. And the second picture, that was the one I mentioned, the highest mound that existed in Maldives at that time, Lamistu mound. And then the third one is the stone slab with Buddha footprints. And the next one is the bronze Buddha from Lamato. We have they found a lot of artifacts, and it's impossible to give records of it here due to the time limit. Now, not only did Maldives attract Western researchers or archaeologists, it also attracted neighboring ones. In 1987, a group from the Archaeological Survey of India visited the mount in Noon Landu. They discovered stupas and remarkable coral stone work with Brahmi inscriptions. They confirmed this to be a Buddhist religious center as well. They stated that the stupa here was the biggest structure of this area and the rest has been destroyed. Now the coral stone work, as you can see in the picture, had Lake Brahmi inscriptions of Pallava style engraved on 4 sides of the book. This is the oldest inscription ever found, written inscription ever found in Maldives. Moving on. Now this is the most remarkable work on our Buddhist remains done by Norway archaeologist Mr. Agil Mikkelsen and Solbrit Bennett, who carried out the first and only scientific archaeological excavation in the monastery site of Kashidu. I'll just give you a brief about the excavation, and details will be given in the next presentation. So this was done from 1996 to 1998. They excavated part of the site, dividing the work into 3 phases. They were unable to excavate the whole site since it was so huge. They found a lot of coral stone platforms of various sizes and shapes, miniature stupas, cowrie shells, tortoise bones, beads, potsherds, and 4 graves. Carbon-14 dating showed that Buddhism was established in this site in the first part of the first millennium, probably from an Indian origin. The existence of beads, shells, and other artifacts gave evidence for exchange of goods between South Asia, Roman world, and later China. From the 4 graves, one skeleton was dated and proved to be about 800 years old. The site was left for us to conserve, however, failure to do so resulted in the loss of many ruins at this site. Part of the excavated site was reburied recently to prevent further damage. This site, as said, is very badly damaged and needs urgent protection. Results of the excavation was published as the archaeological excavations of a monastery at Kashidu. Like I said, more details will be given in the next presentation. So that's one of the pictures of the platforms that were found. The second one shows the miniature stupas, and that's the skeleton that was dated. So to conclude, we can see that there are several Buddhist sites that has great potential to reveal a lot of information of our Buddhist past. After the 1998 excavation, no further research has been done on this theme, on these Buddhist sites. It is sad to see that our Buddhist remains and sites are devalued to such an extent that over the past few years, we have evidenced a great deal of destruction to our Buddhist remains that can never be undone. Due to financial and technical issues, failure to protect and conserve these sites has led to the loss of several remains of these sites. We need to increase awareness among locals, including government authorities and students and almost the whole public, about the importance of conserving our Buddhist sites, and that it is not by any means spreading Buddhism in the country. We need government and international help to do more historical and archaeological research in these sites. Government funding, just like in many other countries, is very low in this field in our country as well. We have few people who is trained in this field, so due to all these facts, we haven't been able to do much research afterwards. So that's my presentation. I hope you have a clearer picture of how Buddhism is involved.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jofra. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions coming to you now. Please. If I may ask you one question, what is the what is the extent of cooperation from the government, which there is for the Buddhist excavations that you find?
It's rather like the government funding for not just Buddhist sites but for the whole sector is relatively low because it's the priority of this sector is a bit low. So due to the financial status of the whole country, we are one sector which is bit devalued because of the status. So it's hard to say just to classify it into Buddhism, but the whole field doesn't get much funding from the government. However, we do get a lot of international help to preserve and conserve our heritage sites, and in the next presentation they will be talking about one such grant that was given to us. But the problem is when we receive grants from international bodies, we need to have a local component in it to use the money which we get by the international organizations. But we don't get any local help from the government, so therefore we can't use it. And currently the government is very much focused on nominating our heritage site to the World Heritage List. So I'm guessing that for the next 1 or 2 years, the government will be more focused on this nominating us some of the mosques towards the World Heritage List rather than the Buddhist sites. However, the government do try to increase funding for the site Kashdu, but we haven't got much aid from the government. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And so I take it that the government is not opposed to any outside funds. Really.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It's totally okay with outside funding.
Please.
Why not explore the SAARC cultural center? I don't think you are thinking of millions of dollars. Maybe of the region of 100,000, 50,000. That's a station. Your Kashidu site, you had circles, limestone. You have similar sites in Sri Lanka, Kadurugadu Vihara. You may have seen that Jaffna in Kandoravi. It was first excavated in the 1970s, 1950s.
Some help from them.
I'm sure that's a good possibility.
Good evening to everybody. I was teaching in Maldives in 91. I went there. And when I went to the museum, I was shocked to see that their sultans are bandaras. They were bandaras. So ultimately I happened to find out how it happened and all. Then I heard a very interesting story of how Maldives became an Islamic country. It had happened overnight according to their myths, so I don't know, there was a very nice, interesting story. So, according to that story, there was a menace or whatever, and to get rid of this, the king promised to do whatever that magician asked them to do. And the magician said, all right, I will kill this person. No, I don't know, whatever the being. And this happens on a full moon day when the moon is there, and this beast come from the sea, and ultimately that magician fought with him and he won. And the king happened to do this, do whatever he said. Then he said, all right, now you all become Islam. So at that point, they all destroyed all these pagodas, chaityas, whatever, and all the Buddha statues, and they all either buried or they put into the sea. So I think now it is the high time if we can start this act. Our friend suggested, if because we all are in SAARC countries, actually religions are, according to my belief, religions are not to separate people, but all religions say something good. Buddhism, of course, I think it is highly philosophical thing, and only you can understand what it is, because that is what the Buddha has said. So I think it is high time for the SAARC Cultural Center to help them to find out all this. Thank you.
I'm sure.
Put into the sea. So is there any effort? I know you said that there's a lack of funding, but do you think any efforts to do any marine archaeology around these, at least around these islands where these monuments have been found?
We have recently, to be honest, marine
Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
No, about 3 years ago in 2009, formed in February of 2009, and when I visited there, I felt there was a sort of a revival after the changing government of an open-minded sort of revival. And I was hoping that that will continue. I'm not sure whether recent events have sort of changed that again, or whether that sort of change in heart has sort of improved the possibility of doing this sort of research.
You mean to revive the sites?
About 4 years ago. Has that improved?
Yeah, it is in process, but not specifically on Buddhist side, for all of them, including the Islamic and any other.
Yes, Buddhism is interested in putting up for World Heritage List.
Yeah.
Very understandable.
Yeah, it is also in process. Recently, in 2011, we did the survey for the inclusion of Malay items in the World Heritage Site. Very recently, when the two people from UNESCO asked us to include some more information, like including 2-3 mosques plus. Earlier we wanted to include only private mosques.
Okay.
But now it is extended.
And quite understandably, that which is still underground will get a little bit less from scarce resources which are available. But it is good to see that there is work taking place, and I'm sure that much more is output. Thank you very much.
I have a question. What about the dangers facing the islands in terms of the ocean? I mean, how has that had an effect on some of the sites? The raising level of the sea.
Sites which are close to the shore, you mean, right? Yeah, we used to build barriers just to block the waves. That's the only work we are doing now. Like earlier in some presentation, we don't have expertise in this conservation. That's why we use traditional ways.
Who are the people technically cooperating with your government now for these installations?
Yes. Very recently, the US Ambassador's Fund and also the Archaeological Survey of India and NRLC, Lucknow. Those are some specific.
Thank you very much.
But there are any linguists among your group, the Norwegian group? Were there linguists in the Norwegian group? Because, the early studies on Maldives were done in Sri Lanka. But were there linguists in that group with the Norwegians, linguists, comparative linguistics? No, right. Because, it is said by linguists that in the 10th or 11th century, Tibet would have been similarities here.
Yeah, it is.
So what they
Yeah,
are
but no.
sorry? Not all English or broad.
Yeah.
Thank you. I now request this Asiyat Muhammad to make a presentation on archaeological findings in relation to
Hello, I'm Asiyat Muhammad from Department of Heritage. I work as a project officer. My presentation will be highlighting on archaeological findings related to Buddhism in Maldives. Mainly those a few objects in museum. Our National Museum, which is under Department of Heritage, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, have a large number of collections related to Buddhism or pre-Islamic collection. But today I am going to focus on a few objects which is in the museum. Maldives had been a Buddhist country up to 1153 AD. Buddhism was widespread and stretched to the width and breadth of the country. In some islands, there were more than one site traced. Buddhist monasteries were built in practically every island of the Maldives. Maldivian law states that all objects of historical significance retrieved from the Maldivian ground is government property. While digging the islands for the construction of houses and for other purposes, many of Buddhism artifacts have been found in Maldives. I will just highlight on those research and findings in Maldives, as my colleagues has given you more details about these things. The Maldives Island monograph on the history of archaeology and epigraphy, monastery at Kashidu, our ancestors and their livelihood is sought mainly from the artifacts found. Information about the people who lived in the past is sought from artifacts discovered from Maldivian soils. A number of artifacts at the National Museum are fragments of Buddhist buildings with profiles. They tell us the type of design and decorative art that was used to beautify the walls of such places. Others include Buddha figures, face carvings apart from relic caskets and relic pots. Most of these items have inscriptions and carvings showing the religious inclinations of their owners. Some of them are from as far as the 1st century onwards. Okay, I will carry on from to give some detail about a few objects in the museum. A 6-piece coral stele. This 6-piece coral stele was of between 9th to 10th century CE. This piece is carved out of coral stone. It has the Vajra symbol showing the connection to Vajrayana Buddhism. This is a sect of Buddhism that was prevalent in Maldives between 9th to 10th century CE. This was found from the road of Malay on early 1960s while digging and while leveling and resurfacing the road. This is one of the most historical artifacts found in the Maldives which shows the Buddhism. Same as the previous one, a coral stone head, which is also from coral stone head, also of 9th to 10th century CE. This is carved from a block of coral stone. This face shows a man with a mustache and elongated earlobes containing round ornaments. This was found in Amir Ahmad which is a road in Mother in Henbury during the early 1960s. This brass statue of seated Buddha, and it is likely to be an imported one from abroad. This artifact was found from Gardu Island in Hatomati, Lam. This Buddha is from 10th century CE and was found while digging the ground of a house. When it was found, it was inside a clay jar. Moreover, a coral stone casket which was found in the former atoll, Dagaba. This site was excavated in 1946. This has a square-raised portion at the top of the lid and a protruding ridge at the base. This casket is from the time of 7th to 9th century. A gold locket and ring which was of 8th to 9th century CE was found from the Gain Island of Lam. These were found in somewhat shallow stone container and that had been placed within a coral stone casket. Though I have given you a very few details of objects in our museum, there are plenty of objects in our museum regarding Buddhism, and because of a lack of expertise in the field and other purposes, maybe because of the priority in the government for the field, we haven't done much researches and haven't researched that those stuff properly. And in my opinion, I think we should give more priority on those, and so that we can store that for the future generations and for those who research in the field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mohammed. Though I must say that if you had brought us some more of the images, we would have been very happy to see all that. Yes, the next time.
I don't have much copies. I have only one copy of our museum objects. If you want, I can show the book.
Are you carrying the book with you?
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm sure
that's why I have distributed.
there will be many who may want to see
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Please circulate. Are there any questions for Ms. Mohammed?
No, no questions, but just an idea of the
Still
very
I'm
good.
using the mic.
Of the object that she showed to us, the brass seated Buddha image has definitely gone from Sri Lanka. There is no two word about it. There is no second word about it. It has gone from Sri Lanka. But the point is, it can be dated to about 13th century, but not earlier than that. So how this happened is the problem. You know, if Buddhism was there after 13th century, why 13th century Buddha image is going there? That's one problem, one section. The other thing is that what you call ring. I don't know the picture used picture it represents it correctly or it correctly. It's for me it's like a sea, Asian sea.
The swastika. I saw a swastika.
Yeah, that's so think about it. You can go back and again have a look at these objects. So you know it can enlighten you again. Refresh you. Thank you.
Yes, I'll request you also to please.
Maybe that.
Yes, I'll request you also to tell why you feel that image is from Sri Lanka and what are the.
What is it?
Yes, I'll request you to please
Sorry,
share with us.
I was engaged in some other.
Why do
you feel it is from Sri Lanka and why do you feel that such an image should only be from
there is no science. there is no science that dispute iconography. You know, iconography. You are a good iconographer. No science can dispute your knowledge. So I am an iconographer. I know my history.
No, I am asking you to share with everybody what is the
yes, I tell you. One thing is the legs are kept crossed in Virasana modes. You know, not one over the other. So in India, as you know, it is one over the other. You know, only very rarely in South India and Sri Lanka, mostly Sri Lanka.
Buddhism is a possible theory, so if we will not say, we haven't confirmed that Muhammad is converted to Islam, all ayahs at once, but it was a gradual conversion.
Yes, that is
Maybe
how
that's the
we
case.
expect it to be, and in any case, no single image can solve as big a question as whether there was a revival or not, and surely it would be a gradual process. Any other questions? Well, I'm sure we have all been very fascinated to see these few remains that have been found out of what is surely a very extensive sites which were there in the Maldives and like everywhere else in South Asia. The preoccupation of the people has been with that which is beyond. And there would be, I'm sure, numerous stupa remains and other findings which are going to be found over a period of time and perhaps also through marine archaeology as was suggested. There will be a tea break, please. Thank you.